So we've launched our EC2 instance, and now let's have a look at security groups. So we have a short idea of security groups by just clicking on security in here, and we get some overview of the security groups attached to our instance, as well as the inbound rules and the outbound rules. But what I will do is I will just access the more complete page of security groups from the left-hand side menu. So under network and security, you click on security group. And we can see so far that we have two security groups in our console so far. So the default security group that is created by default, as well as the launch wizard one, which is the first security group that was created when we created our EC2 instance. And so a security group has an ID, so an identifier, just like an EC2 instance has an ID. And then we can check the inbound rules. So the inbound rules are the rules that allows connectivity from the outside into the EC2 instance. And as we can see, we have two inbound rules in here. And the first one is of type SSH, which allows port 22 in our instance. And let me just click on edit inbound rules to see better. So first one is SSH on port 22 from anywhere. So 000/0 is anywhere. And the second one is HTTP from port 80 again, anywhere. So this rule right here is what allowed us to access our web server. So if we go back to the EC2 console, go to our instance, and we were doing this IPv4 address, okay? So we were opening it as an HTTP website. This worked thanks to this rule port 80. Let's verify this. So if we delete this rule on port 80 and save the rules, as we can see now, we only have port 22. So if I go back to this and refresh my page, now, as you can see, there's an infinite loading screen right here on the top of my screen, which shows that, well, indeed, I don't have access to my EC2 instance. So here is a very important tip for you. Anytime you see a timeout, okay, this is a timeout because it keeps on trying to connect, but it doesn't succeed, and then it will eventually fail, called a timeout. So if you see a timeout when trying to establish any kind of connection into your EC2 instances, for example, if you try to SSH into it, but there's a timeout, or if you try to do an HTTP query, but there's a timeout, or if you try to do anything with it and there is a timeout, this is 100% the cause of an EC2 security group. Okay, so in that case, go to your security group rules and make sure that they are correct, because if they're not correct, then you will get a timeout. So to fix this, we can add back a rule. We will do HTTP, which allows to get port 80 in here automatically. And then from anywhere, IPv4, excuse me, right here, which allows this block right here. We save the rule. Now the rule is done. If I go back to my page and refresh, as you can see, now it is fully working. So this inbound rule really did the trick. But we could add any sort of inbound rule. So we could define the port or the port range that we want to. So we could say, for example, any port we want, for example, 443, which is HTTPS, or choose directly from a drop-down here as a little shortcut the type of protocol you want. For example, HTTPS is 443 automatically. And then you can define where you want to allow from. So you have different CIDR blocks, and we don't need to do them right now, or security groups or prefix lists, but we'll get to see them later on, okay, in this course. For now, just know that you could have either a custom CIDR, anywhere which adds this blog, or if you want, you can select my IP to only allow access to your IP, but just be wary that if your IP changes, then you will get a timeout and will not be able to access your EC2 instance. Finally, one last bit of information. So we can have a look at outbound rules. So we allow all traffic on IPv4 to anywhere. So this allows our EC2 instance to get full internet connectivity anywhere. And something that you know, so we have two security groups right here, default and launch wizard. And an EC2 instance can have many security groups attached to it. So it can attach one, but two or three if you want, maybe 5 security groups, and the rules will just add on to each other. And also, this security group we have created from before, so for example, this launch wizard one can be attached to other EC2 instances, okay? So you can attach as many security groups as you want, as well as many EC2 instances as you want to one security group. That's it for this lecture. I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next lecture.